Hello, hello, and how is everybody? Welcome to another reading time with Jev. We're currently reading Puck of Pook's Hill. This is part 4, I think. It's another one of the books written by Rudyard Kipling. Not quite as famous as the Jungle Book, obviously. I'm Jev. I live in New Zealand, and I read stories out loud. Old-fashioned stories for people who would like some other place in their mind to be at the moment. It's a great way to do it. Great for bedtime stories, also great for just having in the background to listen to while you're in the middle of doing something else, whatever you feel like. I do rough reads. They're not highly polished. They are as they come. I make mistakes. I correct myself. I think about all sorts of things that get me distracted because I'm ADHD. That's just the way my brain works. But also, I've grown up listening to these books, or these sort of books that I read, all my life. I've been listening to them. I've been reading them. My parents have, and so have my grandparents. And so I'm very, very familiar with a lot of things that people who are, some of them older than me, are not familiar with at all. So sometimes I will interrupt myself to explain something. I generally don't chat otherwise within the story, but I will chat between chapters. I record these, I save them, and I post them over on YouTube in about 2 weeks after I've actually done the live read here on Twitch. And then I compile them into playlists over on YouTube. So if you ever want something to listen to, just to have chattering away in the background, you're welcome to go to my YouTube channel, open up a playlist and listen to some old-fashioned book that I'm reading over there. So with that in mind, I'm about to start reading. Have you got your drink to keep you hydrated? Have you got a snack to snack away on? Just because snacks are good. Well, why wouldn't you? I mean, if you're going to listen to a story, you might as well have something nice to snack on. And also somewhere comfortable to sit or lie down while you're reading. While I'm reading, while you're listening. Okay, ready to go? Here we go. Puck of Pook's Hill, and I think it's chapter 4, it's part 4. I'm not sure what the chapter is because this one doesn't have chapter numbers, but we have poems as well as stories. So here we go. We are starting off with a poem, On the Great Wall. When I left Rome for Lalage's sake, by the legion's road to Rimini, she vowed her heart was mine to take with me, and my shield to Rimini, till the eagles flew from Rimini. And I've tramped Britain, and I've tramped Gaul, and the Pontic shore where the snowflakes fall, as white as the neck of Lalage, as cold as the heart of Lalage. And I've lost Britain, and I've lost Gaul. The voice seemed very cheerful about it. And I've lost Rome, and worst of all, I've lost Lalage. They were standing by the gate to Far Wood when they heard this song. Without a word, they hurried to their private gap and wriggled through the hedge almost atop of a jay that was feeding from Puck's hand. Gently, said Puck, what are you looking for? Parnesius, of course, Dan answered. We've only just remembered yesterday. It isn't fair. Puck chuckled as he rose. I'm sorry, but children who spend the afternoon with me and a Roman centurion need a little settling dose of magic before they go to tea with their governess. Oh, hey, Parnesius, he called. Here, fawn, came the answer from Volaterrae. They could see the shimmer of bronze armour in the beech crotch and the friendly flash of the great shield uplifted. Voltaire's they're kind of like a tree hut up in the woods above Pook's Hill, which is across the fields from their house, which in real life is a hillside and a forest across the stream and the fields from Bateman's, which is the house that Rudyard Kipling lived a lot of his English life in. Anyway, we'll carry on. Parnesius is the chap that they met last time. I have driven out the Britons, Parnesius laughed like a boy. I occupy their high forts, but Rome is merciful. You may come up. And up they three all scrambled. So he was saying that he had claimed their tree fort for today. What was the song you were singing just now? Said Una as soon as she had settled herself. That? Oh, Rimini. It's one of the tunes that are always being born somewhere in the Empire. They run like a pestilence for 6 months or a year till another one pleases the legions, and then they march to that. Tell them about the marching, Parnesius. Few people nowadays walk from end to end of this country, said Puck. The greater their loss. I know nothing better than the long march when your feet are hardened. You begin after the mists have risen, and you end perhaps an hour after sundown. And what do you have to eat? Dan asked promptly. Fat bacon, beans and bread, and whatever wine happens to be in the rest houses. But soldiers are born grumblers. Their very first day out, my men complained of our water-ground British corn. They said it wasn't so filling as the rough stuff that is ground in the Roman ox mills. However, they had to fetch and eat it water ground using water mills as opposed to a treadmill that an oxen runs. Fetch it? From where? Said Una. From that newly invented water mill below the forge. That's forge mill, our mill. Una looked at Puck. Yes, yours, Puck put in. How old did you think it was? This is actually a mill I have seen in real life. It's on the stream below Bateman's, the house I just mentioned. If you look on a map, you'll find it. It's still there. A lot of authors like to take the places around them and weave them into their stories to make them a lot more, give them a much stronger sense of reality. So there you go. Yes, yours, Puck put in. How old did you think it was? I don't know. Didn't Sir Richard Dallingridge, sorry, it's been a while since I read his name, didn't Sir Richard Dallingridge talk about it? He did, and it was old in his day, Puck answered, hundreds of years old. It was new in mine, said Parnesius. My men looked at the flower in their helmets as though it had been a nest of adders. They did it to try my patience, but I addressed them, and we became friends. To tell the truth, they taught me the Roman step. You see, it only served with quick marching auxiliaries. A legion's pace is altogether different. It's a long, slow stride that never varies from sunrise to sunset. Rome's pace, as the proverb says. 24 miles in 8 hours. So that's, if you do your maths, 3 miles an hour. Neither more nor less. Head and spear up, shield on your back, cuirass collar open, 1 hand's breadth, that's at the neck. And that's how you take the eagles through Britain. And did you meet any adventures? Said Dan. There are no adventures south of the wall, said Parnesius. The worst thing that happened to me was having to appear before a magistrate up north, where a wandering philosopher had jeered at the eagles. That's his legion. I was able to show that the old man had deliberately blocked our road, and the magistrate told him, out of his own book, I believe, that whatever his gods might be, he should pay proper respect to Caesar. Ooh. What did you do? Said Dan. Went on. Why should I care for such things, my business being to reach my station? It took me 20 days. Now they're down in southern Sussex, and they're tramping up to what has become, I think it's Hadrian's Wall, which goes across, it was at one stage the border between Scotland and England. Look on a map. It's quite a march. This is why the Romans built their roads, as for transporting people and goods from one end of the country, one side of the country to the other. And so these men were marching along these roads, probably. It took me 20 days. Of course, the farther north you go, the emptier are the roads. At last you fetch clear of the forests and climb bare hills, where wolves howl in the ruins of our cities that have been. No more pretty girls, no more jolly magistrates who knew your father when he was young and invite you to stay with them. No news at the temples and way stations except bad news of wild beasts. There is where you meet hunters and trappers for the circuses being the Roman arenas where they used to have gladiators fighting and men and women fighting animals. That's where you meet hunters and trappers for the circuses, prodding along chained bears and muzzled wolves. Your pony shies at them, and your men laugh. Because the officers ride their horses, the men march on foot. The houses changed from gardened villas to shut forts with watchtowers of grey stone and great stone-walled sheepfolds guarded by armed Britons of the north shore. In the naked hills beyond the naked houses, where the shadows of the clouds play like cavalry charging, you see puffs of black smoke from the mines. The hard road goes on, and the wind sings through your helmet plume, past altars to legions and generals forgotten, and broken statues of gods and heroes, and thousands of graves where the mountain foxes and hares peep at you. Red hot in summer, freezing in winter, is that big purple heather country of broken stone. Just when you think you are at the world's end, you see a smoke from east to west, as far as the eye can turn, and then under it, also as far as the eye can stretch, houses and temples, shops and theatres, barracks and granaries, trickling along like dice behind, always behind, one long, low, rising and falling and hiding and showing line of towers, and that is the wall. Ah, said the children, taking a breath. You may well, said Parnesius. Old men who have followed the eagles since boyhood say nothing in the empire is more wonderful than that first sight of the wall. Is it just a wall, like the one round the kitchen garden, said Dan. No, it is the wall. Along the top are towers with guardhouses, small towers, between. Even on the narrowest part of it, 3 men with shields can walk abreast from guardhouse to guardhouse. A little curtain wall no higher than a man's neck runs along the top of the thick wall, so that from a distance you see the helmets of the sentries sliding back and forth like beads. 30 feet high is the wall, and on the Picts side, the north, Picts being Picts, the north is a ditch strewn with blades of old swords and spearheads set in wood and tires of wheels joined by chains. The little people come there to steal iron for their arrowheads. The Picts were said to be a small people, not very tall. But the wall itself is no more wonderful than the town behind it. Long ago there were great ramparts and ditches on the south side, and no one was allowed to build there. Now the ramparts are partly pulled down and built over from end to end of the wall, making a thin town, 80 miles long. Think of it, one roaring, rioting, cockfighting, wolf-baiting, horse-racing town, from Ituna on the west to Segedunum on the north, on the cold eastern beach. On one side heather, woods and ruins where the Picts hide, and on the other a vast town, long like a snake and wicked like a snake. Yes, a snake basking beside a warm wall. My cohort, I was told, lay at Huno, where the great north road runs through the wall into the province of Valentia. Parnesius laughed scornfully. The province of Valentia. We followed the road, therefore, into Huno town and stood, astonished. The place was a fair of peoples from every corner of the empire. Some were racing horses, some sat in wine shops, some watched dogs baiting bears, and many gathered in the ditch to see cocks fight roosters. A boy not much older than myself, but I could see he was an officer, reined me up before him and asked what I wanted. My station, I said, and showed him my shield. Parnesius held up his broad shield with its 3 X's like letters on a beer cask. Lucky omen, said he. Your cohort's the next tower to us, but they're all at the cockfight. This is a happy place. Come and wet the eagles. He meant to offer me a drink. Well, when I've handed over my men, I said. I felt angry and ashamed. Oh, you'll soon outgrow that sort of nonsense, he answered, but don't let me interfere with your hopes. Go on to the statue of Roma Dea. You can't miss it. The main road into Valentia, and he laughed and rode off. I could see the statue not a quarter of a mile away, and there I went, At some time or other, the Great North Road ran under it into Valentia, but the far end had been blocked up because of the Picts, and on the plaster a man had scratched "Finish." It was like marching into a cave. We grounded spears together, my little 30, and it echoed in the barrel of the arch, but none came. There was a door at one side painted with our number. We prowled in, and I found a cook asleep and ordered him to give us food. Then I climbed to the top of the wall and looked out over the Pict country, and I thought, said Parnesius, the bricked-up arch with "Finish" on the plaster was what shook me, for I was not much more than a boy. So rather idealistic, probably. What a shame, said Una, but did you feel happy after you'd had a good... Dan stopped her with a nudge. Happy, said Parnesius, when the men of the cohort I was to command came back unhelmeted from the cockfight, their birds under their arms, and asked me who I was? No, I was not happy. But I made my new cohort unhappy too. I wrote to my mother that I was happy, but oh, my friends, he stretched arms over bare knees, I would not wish my worst enemy to suffer as I suffered through my first months on the wall. Remember this, among the officers was scarcely one except myself, and I thought I had lost the favour of Maximus, my general, scarcely one who had not done something of wrong or folly. Either he had killed a man, or taken money, or insulted the magistrates, or blasphemed the gods, and so had been sent to the wall as a hiding place from shame or fear. And the men were as the officers. Remember also that the wall was manned by every breed and race in the empire. No two towers spoke the same tongue, or worshipped the same gods. In one thing only we were all equal. No matter what arms we had used before we came to the wall, on the wall we were all archers, like the Scythians. The Pict cannot run away from the arrow or crawl under it. He is a bowman himself. He knows. I suppose you were fighting Picts all the time, said Dan. Picts seldom fight. I never saw a fighting Pict for half a year. The tame Picts told us they had all gone north. What is a tame Pict? Said Dan. A Pict, there are many such, who speaks a few words of our tongue and slips across the wall to sell ponies and wolf-hounds. Without a horse and a dog and a friend, man would perish. The gods gave me all three, and there is no gift like friendship. Remember this, Parnesius turned to Dan, when you become a young man, for your fate will turn on the first true friend you make. He means, said Puck, grinning, that if you try to make yourself a decent chap when you're young, you'll make rather decent friends when you grow up. If you're a beast, you'll have beastly friends. Listen to the pious Parnesius on friendship. I am not pious, Parnesius answered, but I know what goodness means, and my friend, though he was without hope, was 10,000 times better than I. Stop laughing, fawn. Because Puck is a fawn, half man, half goat, remember? Oh, youth eternal and all-believing, cried Puck as he rocked on the branch above. Tell them about your Pertinax. Sorry, I was just working on the pronunciation. He was that friend that the gods sent me, the boy who spoke to me when I first came, a little older than myself, commanding the Augusta Victoria cohort on the tower next to us, and the Numidians, next to us and the Numidians. In virtue he was far my superior. Then why was he on the wall? Una asked quickly. They'd all done something bad. You said so yourself. He was the nephew, his father had died, of a great rich man in Gaul who was not always kind to his mother. When Pertinax grew up, he discovered this, and so his uncle shipped him off by trickery and force to the wall. We came to know each other at a ceremony in our temple in the dark. It was the bull killing, Parnesius explained to Puck. I see, said Puck, and turned to the children. That's something you wouldn't quite understand. Parnesius means he met Pertinax in church, his equivalent of church. Yes, in the cave we first met, and we were both raised to the degree of griffins together. Parnesius lifted his hand towards his neck for an instant. He had been on the wall 2 years and knew the Picts well. He taught me first how to take heather. What's that? Going out hunting in the Pict country with a tame Pict. You are quite safe so long as you are his guest and wear a sprig of heather where it can be seen. If you went alone, you would surely be killed if you were not smothered first in the bogs. Only the Picts know their way about those black and hidden bogs. Old Allo, the one-eyed withered little Pict from whom we bought our ponies, was our special friend. At first we went only to escape from the terrible town and to talk together about our homes. Then he showed us how to hunt wolves and those great red deer with horns like Jewish candlesticks. Lots of branches on them, because not all deer have multi-branched horns. The Roman-born officers rather looked down on us for doing this, but we preferred the heather to their amusements. Believe me, Parnesius turned again to Dan, a boy is safe from all things that really harm when he is astride a pony or after a deer. Do you remember, O fawn, he turned to Puck, the little altar I built to the Sylvian Pan by the pine forest beyond the brook? Which? The stone one with the line from Xenophon, said Puck, in quite a new voice. No, what do I know of Xenophon? That was Pertinax, after he had shot his first mountain hare with an arrow, by chance. Mine I made of round pebbles, in memory of my first bear. It took me one happy day to build. Parnesius faced the children quickly. And that was how we lived on the wall for 2 years, a little scuffling with the Picts, and a great deal of hunting with old Allo in the Pict country. He called us his children sometimes, and we were fond of him and his barbarians, though we never let them paint us, Pict fashion. The marks endure till you die. So maybe that's tattooing. They talk about the Picts wearing woad, which is, woad is a plant, and you crush it and you ferment it, and then you put the mash on your skin, and it colours your skin blue. Yes, sometimes called the blue people. And apparently it stains the skin. Unless if it really does stay for life, then I'm guessing that they must tattoo with it. Because a normal skin colouring like henna will eventually wear off. Anyway, we'll carry on. How's it done? Said Dan. Anything like tattooing? I shouldn't have said anything. I should have just kept reading. As usual, I'll carry on. They prick the skin till the blood runs and rub in coloured juices. Allo was painted blue, green and red from his forehead to his ankles. He said it was part of his religion. He told us about his religion. Pertinax was always interested in such things, and as we came to know him well, he told us what was happening in Britain behind the wall. Many things took place behind us in those days, and by the light of the sun, said Parnesius earnestly, there was not much that those little people did not know. So it sounds like Allo was finding out about what was happening down in the Roman part of the country. Not sure. I'll keep reading. He told me when Maximus crossed over to Gaul, after he had made himself Emperor of Britain, and what troops and emigrants he had taken with him. We did not get the news on the wall till 15 days later. So yes, he was getting news about what was happening down further south, a lot further south. He told me what troops Maximus was taking out of Britain every month to help him to conquer Gaul, and I always found the numbers were, as he said, wonderful. And I tell another strange thing. He joined his hands across his knees and leaned his head on the curve of the shield behind him, leaned back. Late in the summer, when the first frosts began and the Picts killed their bees, we 3 rode out after wolf with some new hounds. Rutilianus, our general, had given us 10 days' leave, and we had pushed beyond the second wall, beyond the province of Valentia. The first wall is Hadrian's wall. The second wall is, what's it called? Go on, look it up. Put it in the chat. I can't remember what it's called. The Antonine Wall, I think. Go on, see if you can find it. beyond the province of Valentia, into the higher hills where there are not even any of old Rome's ruins. Because I think the Antonine Wall was the one that was as far north as they actually got for settling and ruling over. We killed a she-wolf before the noon, and while Aloe was skinning her, he looked up and said to me, "When you are captain of the wall, my child, you won't be able to do this any more." I might as well have been made prefect of Lower Gaul, so I laughed and said, "Wait till I'm captain." "No, don't wait," said Aloe. "Take my advice and go home, both of you." "We have no homes," said Pertinax. "You know that as well as we do. We're finished men, thumbs down against both of us. Only men without hope would risk their necks on your ponies." The old man laughed one of those short, picked laughs, like a fox barking on a frosty night. "I'm fond of you two," he said. "Besides, I've taught you what little you know about hunting. Take my advice and go home." That sounds like a hint of something that might happen. "We can't," I said. "I'm out of favour with my general for one thing, and for another, Pertinax has an uncle." "I don't know about his uncle," said Aloe, "but the trouble with you, Parnesius, is that your general thinks well of you." "Roma Dea," said Pertinax, sitting up. "What can you guess what Maximus thinks, you old horse coper?" Just then, you know how near the brutes creep when one is eating, a great wolf dog jumped out behind us, and away our rested hounds tore after him, with us at their tails. He ran us far out of any country we'd ever heard of, straight as an arrow till sunset. Towards the sunset, we came at last to long capes, stretching into winding waters, and on a grey beach below us we saw ships drawn up. 47 we counted, not Roman galleys, but the raven-winged ships from the north, where Rome does not rule. Men moved in the ships, and the sun flashed on their helmets, winged helmets of the red-haired men from the north, where Rome does not rule. We watched and we counted and we wondered, for though we had heard rumours concerning these winged hats, as the Picts call them, never before had we looked upon them. Come away, said Aloe. "My heather won't protect you here. We shall all be killed." His legs trembled like his voice. Back we went, back across the heather under the moon, till it was nearly morning, and our poor beasts stumbled on some ruins. When we woke, very stiff and cold, Aloe was mixing the meal and water. That's the ground up. Probably oats, if it's Scotland. One does not light fires in the Pict country except near a village. The little men are always signalling to each other with smokes, and a strange smoke brings them out, buzzing like bees. They can sting too. "What we saw last night was a trading station," said Aloe. "Nothing but a trading station." "I do not like lies on an empty stomach," said Pertinax. "I suppose," he had eyes like an eagle's, "I suppose that is a trading station also." He pointed to a smoke far off on a hilltop, ascending in what we call the Picts call puff, double puff, double puff, puff. They make it by raising and lowering a wet hide on the fire. "No," said Aloe, pushing the platter back into the bag. "That is for you and me. Your fate is fixed. Come." We came. When one takes heather, one must obey one's Pict, but that wretched smoke was 20 miles distant, well over on the east coast, and the day was as hot as a bath. "Whatever happens," Aloe said, while our ponies grunted along, "I want you to remember me." "I shall not forget," said Pertinax. "You have cheated me out of my breakfast." "What is a handful of crushed oats to a Roman?" he said. Then he laughed his laugh that was not a laugh. "What would you do if you were a handful of oats being crushed between the upper and lower stones of a mill?" "I'm Pertinax, not a riddle guesser," said Pertinax. "You're a fool," said Aloe. "Your gods and my gods are threatened by strange gods, and all you can do is laugh." "Threatened men live long," I said. "I pray the gods that may be true," he said. "But I ask you again not to forget me." We climbed the last hot hill and looked out on the eastern sea 3 or 4 miles off. There was a small sailing galley of the North Gaul pattern at anchor. her landing plank down and her sail half up, and below us, alone in a hollow holding his pony, sat Maximus, Emperor of Britain. He was dressed like a hunter, and he leaned on his little stick, but I knew that back as far as I could see it, and I told Pertinax. "You're madder than aloe," he said. "It must be the sun." Maximus never stirred till we stood before him. Then he looked me up and down and said, "Hungry again? It seems to be my destiny to feed you whenever we meet. I have food here. Aloe shall cook it." "No," said Aloe. "A prince in his own land does not wait on wandering emperors. I feed my 2 children without asking your leave." He began to blow up the ashes. That's interesting. Aloe referred to himself as the prince of the land. "I was wrong," said Pertinax. "We are all mad. Speak up, O madman called emperor." Maximus smiled his terrible tight-lipped smile, but 2 years on the wall did not make a man afraid of mere looks, so I was not afraid. "I meant you, Parnesius, to live and die a centurion on the wall," said Maximus. "But it seems from these," he fumbled in his breast, "you can think as well as draw." He pulled out a roll of letters I had written to my people, full of drawings of Picts and bears and men I had met on the wall. My mother and my sister always liked my pictures. He handed me one that I had called Maximus's Soldiers. It showed a row of fat wineskins and our old doctor of the Hunno hospital snuffing at them. Each time that Maximus had taken troops out of Britain to help him to conquer Gaul, he used to send the garrisons more wine to keep them quiet, I suppose. On the wall we had always called a wineskin a Maximus. Oh, yes, and I had drawn them in imperial helmets. Not long since, he went on, men's names were sent up to Caesar for smaller jokes than this. Death. "True, Caesar," said Pertinax, "but you forget that was before I, your friend's friend, became such a good spear thrower." He did not actually point his hunting spear at Maximus, but balanced it on his palm. So. "I was speaking of time past," said Maximus, never fluttering an eyelid. "Nowadays one is only too pleased to find boys who can think for themselves and their friends." That's exactly what Parnesius had got in trouble for, was daring to think for himself. That was why he was sent to the wall, remember? Because Maximus wanted unquestioning obedience at that stage. So I'll say that again. Nowadays one is only too pleased to find boys who can think for themselves and their friends. Selves and their friends. Finding their friends. He nodded at Pertinax. "Your father lent me the letters, Parnesius, so you run no risk from me." "None whatever," said Pertinax, and rubbed the spear point on his sleeve. "I have been forced to reduce the garrisons in Britain because I need troops in Gaul. Now I come to take troops from the wall itself," said he. "I wish you joy of us," said Pertinax. "We're the last sweepings of the empire, the men without hope. Myself I'd sooner trust condemned criminals." "You think so," he said, quite seriously, "but it will only be till I win Gaul. One must always risk one's life or one's soul or one's peace or some little thing." Aloe passed round the fire with the sizzling deer's meat. He served us two first. "Ah," said Maximus, waiting his turn, "I perceive you are in your own country. Well, you deserve it. They tell me you have quite a following among the Picts, Parnesius." "I have hunted with them," I said. "Maybe I have a few friends among the heather." "He is the only armoured man of you all who understands us," said Aloe, and he began a long speech about our virtues and how we had saved one of his grandchildren from a wolf the year before. "Had you?" said Una. "Yes, but that was neither here nor there. The little green man orated like a Cicero. He made us out to be magnificent fellows." Maximus never took his eyes off our faces. "Enough," he said. "I have heard Aloe on you. I wish to hear you on the Picts." I told him as much as I knew, and Pertinax helped me out. There is never harm in a Pict if you but take the trouble to find out what he wants. Their real grievance against us came from our burning their heather. The whole garrison of the wall moved out twice a year and solemnly burned the heather for 10 miles north. Rutilianus, our general, called it clearing the country. The Picts, of course, scampered away, and all we did was to destroy their bee bloom in the summer and ruin their sheep food in the spring. True, quite true, said Aloe. How can we make our holy heather wine if you burn our bee pasture? We talked long. Maximus asked keen questions that showed he knew much and had thought more about the Picts. He said presently to me, if I gave you the old province of Valentia to govern, could you keep the Picts contented till I won Gaul? Stand away so that you do not see Aloe's face, and speak your own thoughts. No, I said, you cannot remake that province. The Picts have been free too long. Leave them their village councils and let them furnish their own soldiers, he said. You, I am sure, would hold the reins very lightly. So it sounds like Maximus has learnt a little bit about letting people govern themselves with just a little bit of guidance to keep them on side. Even then, no, I said, at least not now. They have been too oppressed by us to trust anything with a Roman name for years and years. I heard old Aloe behind me mutter, good child. Then what do you recommend, said Maximus, to keep the north quiet till I win Gaul? Leave the Picts alone, I said. Stop the heather burning at once, and, they are improvident little animals, send them a shipload or two of corn now and then. Their own men must distribute it, not some cheating Greek accountant, said Pertinax. Yes, and allow them to come to our hospitals when they are sick, I said. Surely they would die first, said Maximus. Not if Parnesius brought them in, said Aloe. I could show you 20 wolf-bitten, bear-clawed Picts within 20 miles of here, but Parnesius must stay with them in hospital, else they would go mad with fear. I see, said Maximus. Like everything else in the world, it is one man's work. You, I think, are that one man. Pertinax and I are one, I said. As you please, so long as you work. Now, Aloe, you know that I mean your people no harm. Leave us to talk together, said Maximus. No need, said Aloe. I am the corn between the upper and lower millstones. I must know what the lower millstone means to do. These boys have spoken the truth as far as they know it. I, a prince, will tell you the rest. I am troubled about the men of the north. He squatted like a hare in the heather and looked over his shoulder. I also, said Maximus, or I should not be here. Listen, said Aloe. Long and long ago, the winged hats, he meant the Northmen, came to our beaches and said, Rome falls, push her down. We fought you. You sent men. We were beaten. After that we said to the winged hats, you are liars. Make our men alive that Rome killed, and we will believe you. They went away ashamed. Now they come back bold, and they tell the old tale which we begin to believe, that Rome falls. Give me 3 years' peace on the wall, cried Maximus, and I will show you and all the ravens how they lie. Ah, I wish it too. I wish to save what is left of the corn from the millstones. But you shoot us Picts when we come to borrow a little iron from the iron ditch. You burn our heather, which is all our crop. You trouble us with your great catapults. Then you hide behind the wall and scorch us with Greek fire. How can I keep my young men from listening to the winged hats? In winter, especially when we are hungry. My young men will say, Rome can neither fight nor rule. She is taking her men out of Britain. The winged hats will help us to push down the wall. Let us show them the secret roads across the bogs. Do I want that? No. He spat like an adder. I would keep the secrets of my people, though I were burned alive. My 2 children here have spoken truth. Leave us Picts alone. Comfort us and cherish us, and feed us from far off, with the hand behind the back. Parnesius understands us. Let him have rule on the wall, and I will hold my young quiet. For, he ticked it off on his fingers, 1 year easily, the next year not so easily, the 3rd year, perhaps. See, I give you 3 years. If then you do not show us that Rome is strong in men and terrible in arms, the winged hats, I tell you, will sweep down the wall from either sea till they meet in the middle, and you will go. I shall not grieve over that, but well I know tribe never helps tribe, except for one price. We Picts will go too. The winged hats will grind us to this. He tossed a handful of dust in the air. "Oh, Roma Dea," said Maximus half aloud, "it is always one man's work, always and everywhere." "And one man's life," said Aloe. "You are emperor, but not a god. You may die." "I have thought of that too," said he. "Very good. If this wind holds, I shall be at the east end of the wall by morning. Tomorrow, then, I shall see you too when I inspect. I will make you captains of the wall for this work." "One instant, Caesar," said Pertinax. "All men have their price. I am not bought yet." "Do you also begin to bargain so early?" said Maximus. "Well, give me justice against my uncle Icenus, the Duumvir of Divio in Gaul," he said. "Only a life? I thought it would be money or an office." "Certainly, you shall have him. Write his name on these tablets. On the red side, the other is for the living." And Maximus held out his tablets. "He is of no use to me dead," said Pertinax. "My mother is a widow. I am far off. I am not sure he pays her all her dowry." "No matter. My arm is reasonably long. We will look through your uncle's accounts in due time. Now, farewell till tomorrow, O captains of the wall." We saw him grow small across the heather as he walked to the galley. There were Picts, scores each side of him, hidden behind stones. He never looked left nor right. He sailed away southerly, full spread before the evening breeze, and when we had watched him out to sea, we were silent. We understood that earth bred few men like this man. Presently, Aloe brought the ponies and held them for us to mount, a thing he had never done before. "Wait a while," said Pertinax, and he made a little altar of cut turf and strewed heather bloom atop, and laid upon it a letter from a girl in Gaul. "What do you do, O friend?" I said. "I sacrifice to my dead youth," he answered, and when the flames had consumed the letter, he ground them out with his heel. Then we rode back to the wall, to that wall of which we were to be captains. Parnesius stopped. The children sat still, not even asking if that were all the tale. Puck beckoned and pointed the way out of the wood. "Sorry," he whispered, "but you must go now." "We haven't made him angry, have we?" said Una. "He looks so far off. And thinky." "Bless your heart, no. Wait till tomorrow. It won't be long. Remember, you've been playing lays of ancient Rome," in terms of what they've been doing while they're away from home. And as soon as they had scrambled through their gap where oak, ash, and thorn grew, that was all they remembered. And here's the ending song or poem for this chapter. And I'm going to finish early today because I have to do a Zoom meeting, I'm sorry. And I'll see you next time, but I'm going to read this song. A Song to Mithras. Mithras, god of the morning, our trumpets waken the wall. Rome is above the nations, but thou art over all. Now, as the names are answered and the guards are marched away, Mithras, also a soldier, give us strength for the day. Mithras, god of the noontide, the heather swims in the heat. Our helmets scorch our foreheads, our sandals burn our feet. Now, in the ungirt hour, now ere we blink and drowse, Mithras, also a soldier, keep us true to our vows. Mithras, god of the sunset, low on the western main, thou descending immortal, immortal to rise again. Now when the watch is ended, now when the wine is drawn, Mithras, also a soldier, keep us pure till dawn. Mithras, god of the midnight, here where the great bull dies, look on thy children in darkness. O take our sacrifice. Many roads thou hast fashioned, all of them lead to the light. Mithras, also a soldier, teach us to die aright. And that's the end of today's reading. And we shall see you next time. And if in the meantime you need to listen to more stories, then YouTube playlists of other stories we've had is probably going to be what you need. So I'll give you the link. For those of you who are not watching on YouTube. So there you go. See you next time. Bye.